Campbell here, your online systemic leadership mentor. In this video, I will cover step number 3 in the systemic change leadership journey. In this video, you will learn what leadership from a systemic perspective really is, why changing your leadership paradigm will help you with the change leadership success, and how you can take the first steps in this shift. Now, needless to say, I've helped many leaders and professionals of all kinds to approach leadership more systemically, and this has helped them to use this to not only create change success, but also to build a more sustainable change capacity within their organizations. Now, I've used this systemic approach to leadership across all industries in which I've helped to lead change, and its effectiveness is the main reason why I started hosting the Systemic Leadership Summit, of which I've run 4 to date. Now, part of the systemic leadership paradigm in this step also includes my learning from Systemic Leadership Summit speakers such as Peter Senge, Glenda Ouyang, Peter Hawkins, Anthony Howard, just to name a few. Now, there are a few main consequences of shaping leadership the traditional way and why a paradigm shift to systemic leadership is so important. Now, first of all, if leaders stick to the old hero-based leadership they need to know it all, then they will understand that this is impossible in an increasingly complex world where changes happen so incredibly fast that every time you come up with a strategy, it's actually already outdated. Now, another important reason is that many leaders do not know about the system dynamics, and this gives leaders a false belief that they are leading, whereas in fact, the system, the organization, or the team is also leading, as well as the bigger system around their team or organization. So these currents within the bigger systems are so strong that they can't be led by individuals, especially not all the time. So most leaders are not aware of these currents and of these dynamics, and they think they need to control it all, which they actually can't. Now, what's furthermore is that change results are also very much about context, not just about content. And so a linear approach to leadership is way too one-sided when trying to solve problems. Usually, these problems are about multiple contexts. And so the pitfall is to really focus on symptoms and not to look at the patterns, as also discussed in our video about change identification. Traditional leadership is also an invite for ownership not to be taken from the different roles. And so everyone gets to blame management and leadership because they think they're supposed to make all the decisions and take care of everyone. Now, traditional leadership doesn't allow ownership to be taken on in the entire organization. The fifth reason why traditional leadership is actually not working is that getting the entire organization under control is actually an ego-based notion. So sometimes the system needs to move elsewhere than where the leadership wants to take it. And so this is a push-pull that many leaders don't understand, but it's very important to be aware of. Then traditional leadership also invites to a constant fight around who gets to rule in the organization. So competition elicits really negative ego-driven behavior instead of building on the leadership that is healthy for the entire organization and the subsystems within it. And then lastly, systemic leadership is not really taught in business school. And so what happens is that the old leadership paradigm gets perpetuated. Learning about systemic leadership or about leadership in general is usually outsourced. And so it's not very effective for complex situations. So once you go to business school, you come back in your organization, and what you've learned is a context that's nothing like the complex dynamics that you work with. Now, I wonder which of these issues, or maybe all of them, sound most familiar to you. And what I'm going to do now is show you a few important aspects of a systemic approach to leadership that you can use to overcome these issues. And so you will be able to spread leadership more, deal with complexity more effectively, and set yourself and your leadership team up for change success while saving yourself not only a lot of time, money, and energy, but also stress and heartache. So here we go. The first step that I want to share with you today is that you first need to understand that leadership in a system means that it's a role that belongs to the system and not just to those who fulfill a leadership role. So, systemic leaders understand the difference between their role and the person they are. The system needs leadership and will recruit others to shape it. So, not just you as a leader. So, it does so to continue its patterns and to move where it wants to move. So, it's very important that you build this awareness. Then, step two, systemic leadership is about seeing, understanding, and working with dynamics and undercurrents in the whole system or the organization. Therefore, you need to take a wider view of the whole system and focus on that, not on the individual parts or functions, as we also discussed in video one about the fish tank metaphor. It's not about the fish, it's about the water. In step number three, we want to talk about systemic leadership as a way to guard the boundaries of your organization. So, what belongs in the system and what doesn't? Now, with complex information or changes coming in, this is not really an easy task, but it needs to be done in order to keep the system safe and in order to let information, people, and energies in your organization that the organization needs to grow and expand. It's like holding a giant net. The interconnectedness is already there, so that's not really your job, but it is about making sure that the net is held well. Step four that I want to share today is systemic leadership is about ensuring system rules and balances. And for example, an important systemic rule is order. And there is an importance of three crucial functions within an organization that are one very important dynamic of order. And three crucial functions are the Agens function, which is the autonomy function of and within the system. So this function is very much focused on the outside world. A very important one that comes first in the order. The second order is the core function or profession, which focuses on the core business of serving clients, whether these are internal and external. And then there is communion, and that focuses on the well-being and keeping everything going. So these three functions are an example of systemic order that's important to guard. Then there is another systems rule and balance, and that is about the balance between giving and receiving. If people don't feel like they're getting the right compensation for the work that they're doing, or if they do not have an equal amount of opportunities within the same professional group, for example, then giving and receiving is out of balance. And we people are very sensitive to this giving and receiving balance. And then lastly, it's also very important to make sure that everyone belongs to the system. So the inclusion and exclusion discussion is a huge one in business nowadays. And this has to do with the sense of belonging. If people don't have a sense of belonging, then all kinds of strange dynamics can happen around that. So it's important to look at that also. Step number 5 is about systemic leadership and understanding the original purpose of your organization and the function of repeating patterns from this original point until now. It's so crucial that you understand that organizations, the function of the past as information about how patterns evolved, and knowing that the organization at some point will come to an end, one reason being its purpose being fulfilled, all of that is really crucial to know and understand when shaping leadership systemically. And lastly, systemic leadership is about knowing when to use your knowledge and leadership expertise and when to use inquiry and ask open-ended questions in such a way that your organization as a system will reveal itself to you in new ways or different ways than you've seen before. And so, especially in complex change situations, inquiry works better because it will help you to expand the knowledge base. Now, these steps or aspects to systemic leadership are a few crucial ones, but there are more. And so, having said that, shaping leadership systemically is only a small part of an effective systemic change leadership strategy. Now, the systemic change leadership journey is the framework we use to help leaders increase their complex change leadership success by 50% only within a few months. And so it's very important that you look at the entire framework and use that so that you can take your organization from surviving to thriving without wasting a lot of time, money, and energy on one size fits all change management solutions that don't work. Now, if you want to get crystal clear on what is the one thing that you should be doing now to really shape leadership systemically in your organization, or if you want to learn more about the systemic change leadership journey, then you can book a complimentary call with me. You can do so by clicking the link below. Now, during this call, we'll take a look at your organization and the change and leadership situations that you are dealing with right now, and we'll go through this step as well as through the entire systemic change leadership journey to see where you are. So at the end of our call, you will have your most important systemic change leadership strategy to work with in your organization right now. I have nothing else to say but to thank you so much for watching this video. Take care. See you in the next video. Bye-bye.